C2 on Twitter should you want to check it out. But these two players are who you're all here really to see. We do have in the lower left position, currently showing us that he is well within his weight bracket in this tournament. We do have the blue Protoss player playing for Team Neurosoft. It is WELMU. And now his opponent up in the top right, maybe a little bit shaken, maybe a little bit stirred, of course, if he was not James Bond. We do have for Team Liquid, TLO.
You know, if I had to pick one StarCraft player who's actually a bit like James Bond, I would go for Dario. I could see him being like the elusive, I just quietly kick butt in the corner kind of guy.
I can see that as well. When he just sits, like you can just see him there, just sitting there with his headphones and then just disappearing for half an hour. And then us coming back and being like, hey, where have all his opponents gone? They've all disappeared somewhere. And then we just open up like a broom cupboard somewhere and there's the pile of bodies or whatever. Like that, I could see that happening as well. And he'd be in a tux, of course, because I think he'd look just dapper in a tux.
Dario could easily pull off like looking super suave in a tux. But before we get too much love out on the way, guys, we, of course, see him in a position where he is actually 1-0 down. So he's playing super safe at the moment. He's going for the pool first. Probably going to grab a hatch shortly afterwards as his overlords get into position to scout out what WELMU is doing. His pylon was on the low ground, so indicative of fast expanding action. We could be seeing a Nexus first come out of him here. Nothing too out of the ordinary. Not even blocking the hatchery. Oh.
So.
Or maybe he is. There we go.
TLO sees that probe coming in though. He's just going to be like, you know what? I'm going to take my third first. Because I like my third base. You killed it last time, so I'm going to make sure that it at least survives a little bit longer this game. But, of course, Cloud Kingdom is one of those maps where a Zerg's third is always a focal point. That if you run into that and get it taken out, it's tough to hold. It's why we see in Wings of Liberty the Immortal Sentry all-in being used so frequently on this map. And as such, will WELMU go for something like that? Will he just stick with that Mothership Core aggression, or will he himself try and take a quick third base?
Well, there's a couple of options open to him. Yeah, I suspect after that game number one, it's possible that WELMU could sit back here and say, I'd like to play a little bit more of a macro game, get my third base up a little bit earlier, and that's all great. Because at the end of the day, even though it was an absolutely amazing play in game one, and we'll be talking about it for weeks, about how that beautiful mass recall with a couple of DTs sniping and completely ruined TLO, it's still the kind of thing where once you've done it to someone once, they know it's potentially coming, and it's going to be very difficult to pull it off twice in a row.
I completely agree with you, Jorasar. And for that reason, as you said, I think WELMU will go for a slightly quicker third. Go more economical, because ultimately, a 3-base Protoss player can get up nearly anything they want. And that's the other advantage of the Mothership Core. It's not just for an offensive player, as we saw in Game 1. With the Photon Overcharge, you can be super greedy with your third. And anything short of a complete all-in aggressive push from a Zerg player can be quite comfortably held off.
Yeah, the Mothership Core has transformed the way Protosses can play early game. We've seen with the new mass recall, of course, you can prod in and out and do very, very cool timing attacks without losing your entire army. Photon Overcharge allows you to get so many useful defensive options as well when you want to play greedy. So it means that other races are going to have to scout Protosses a lot more often than they used to, because just seeing that a Protoss has gone Forge Fast Expand isn't indicative of what they're going to do in the next couple of minutes anymore.
Well, we should get it all revealed very shortly. We're just waiting, taking a keen eye on that production tab to see, wait, what are they planning for us? Those Zerglings are just chipping away at the rocks. So is that the first indicator the TLO could be going for some earlier aggression? Because if you knock that out, force fields become less effective. But WELMU is the one we're really looking for, because TLO is going to have to be somewhat reactionary to what his Protoss opponent decides to throw at him.
No, that's a great point. And with that Mothership Core coming out as well for WELMU, as soon as TLO sees that that's out on the field, he has to realize that he can't afford to be caught with his pants down across the map effectively if he decides to commit a big attack. WELMU, of course, will be able to utilize mass recall. He can also harass, so we'll see what he's up to. He's going up to 4 gateways at the moment off the back of this as well. The Mothership Core just going to chase away the Overlord, surprisingly showing a bit of leniency, deciding not to kill it. But I think he is going to go back and mob up here. Yep, there we go. Wait, what? Oh, okay.
That Stalker is just having a little duel with some Zerglings, but does manage to...
I was like, where did the Stalker go? I swear the Stalker was doing damage to it, then it just disappeared. But,
Now, interesting, what we're seeing from TLO here is he's getting out Overlord speed. Of course, you can get that before you get Lair now. So that's interesting to see him utilizing that new change. But we've got Blink coming down again, or at least the Twilight Council, which I'm assuming will research Blink as soon as it's complete. But the 4 gates of Mothership Core, this is pretty much an identical build to Game 1. And TLO, even though he's probably quite confident it's coming and he's getting a lot of Zerglings out, the problem is, with only Queens as anti-air, how do you deal with it?
No, it's going to be a difficult position for him indeed. He needs to make sure he mops up quickly. And we actually saw him making a lot of Zerglings just now as his Overlord quickly gets a scout of what's going on. So he confirms that this Mothership Core play is incoming. And he sees the Twilight Council and the Blink is researching as well. Not with 1, but with 2 Overlords. So he knows exactly what's coming. He's going to have to try and defend it his third. Now, Time Warp goes down, and that actually leaves the Mothership Core a little bit less energy than he otherwise would like.
And that's what I think you've really got to try and do. Now, speed is nearing complete. You've got to push this back very early on. You've got to force that mass recall before the Stalker force gets too large. We do see a couple of Stalkers getting trapped here, and WELMU adapting very well to what he saw in Game 1 and what ultimately beat him in Game 1. And could this now be WELMU in a bit of trouble, or does he have a follow-up to this?
TLO, I want to say, played that brilliantly, because by baiting that Time Warp out of the Mothership Core, and there we go, the Time Warp happening again, but a beautiful
But that Time Warp
surround.
means no recall. And that means all of these Stalkers are dead and gone. That is a massive loss.
Yep, and I'm going to tell you something else, Maddles. It wasn't even that Time Warp that meant there was no recall. It was the first Time Warp that meant there was no recall. Because after that first Time Warp, there was only about 40 energy left on the Mothership Core. There was no way he was going to get enough energy for a mass recall in time for that follow-up engagement to happen. So TLO timing his counterattack with that speed, finishing beautifully here, and he has a comfortable lead over WELMU. The worker supply 68 to 52, and he has a slightly larger army as well, taking the 4th simultaneously.
I've got to say, I am impressed. Very, very impressed with TLO. And what seemed like a very strong build in Game 1, he's adapted to it, he's dealt with it effectively in Game 2, and now the ball is really in WELMU's court, and he's getting out those double Stargates. I believe, did I see he had a third down summon? No, it's just the 2 for the time being, but he's got +1 air weapons. He's transitioning in towards Sky Toss, getting Phoenix for the time being, but as we see, TLO already chucking down those Spore Crawlers because he's seen those 2 Stargates.
TLO has done a tremendous job with those 2 Overlords down in the southern portion of the map this game. I'm pretty sure they're both still alive, but they're actually the ones heading back towards his third at the moment. They are absolute heroes, and they've allowed him to see everything that's going on in WELMU's base. TLO moving in now with a squad of Lings towards a third base. He just wants to force a cancel here and delay this third as long as possible. He's going to try and surround the Zealots, though. He's feeling quite confident about this. A Time Warp going down. The Zealots being very, very cost efficient, but are there enough of them to clean up the Lings? It looks like there are. And I think TLO would have been better off just trying to hit and run on the Nexus there. A lot of Lings lost there for not much gain.
In terms of resources lost, though, overall this game, WELMU is still losing more than TLO has by not too much, only 600 resources. But what you've got to take note of is that TLO has his 4th and 5th base up, and all he's got to do now is use these Hydras with those muscular augments, otherwise known as Hydra speed, to clean up the air before it gets too sizable, and he should be fairly okay going into the later stages of this match.
I wish I had muscular augments.
It'd be pretty awesome. To be fair, I prefer to have Stim Pack.
No, I want muscular augments. Do you think of how many hours I'd save at the gym? Like, Stim Pack is just, yeah, okay, 30 seconds. Woo! Big deal. But muscular augments is for life, man.
So, it's not enough. Just to be fair, most of the Zerg upgrades are pretty much for life. It'd be fairly okay. Like, you just want to be able to evolve as the need arises, really.
I know. I think that's a really good point. We'll see. We'll see what we could do to transfer some of that to Terran. Then we'd actually have the most imbalanced race on the planet. But for now, though, the Phoenixes from WELMU just continuing to fly around, creep at the top of the map, seeing what they can pick off here. And I love this decision from TLO not to transfer workers over to the 5th base, I guess, in the 4th base location, until the Spore Crawlers are up. That really limits the damage these Phoenixes can do.
So the Phoenix are getting shut down slightly, but behind this, of course, WELMU is just going full on Sky Toss, or at least starting to. He's getting out the Void Rays, he's just gearing everything up. He's even getting that +1 Protoss air armor. And as such, these Hydras, while effective now, as we were talking about in Game 1, Skytoss, once it gets up and running, becomes exceptionally hard to deal with. So TLO, he's got to really start punishing this soon.
Oh, and the Phoenixes fly straight over the Hydralisk, getting a lot of damage done there. 2 of them going down, a third one almost going down as well. That is not going to do much to boost his confidence. And we have a Hydra Baneling army getting ready to mass up towards the third base here, but WELMU is prepared with a lot of Zealots with +2 and Archon and some Void Rays as well. Now, the Banelings will do a lot of damage against the Zealots, but the Archon taking so many of them out instantly.
Now, here comes down the engagement. The Hydra's trying to push up, but those Void Rays are doing some nice damage. The Zealots tanking a lot of the damage. Photon Overcharge being used on the Nexus as well, and that just has such an incredible range. Even a couple of Infestors now for TLO trying to do damage, but some great feedbacks. Pop 2 of them, and as such, TLO forced back, at least for the time being.
Yeah, that's a really good hold there from WELMU. Didn't panic. Very good use of the Archon there to kill those initial Banelings. I thought that was a really important move, because if the Banelings got to the front and managed to pick apart all those Zealots straight away, there just wouldn't be much meat to force the Hydras back, and I think a lot of those Void Rays might have gone down. So really great move there with the Archon from WELMU.
So, Ultras on the way. That is just TLO getting ready for Tier 3, getting ready to go into the late game. But if this Skytoss force gets up too much, with the Fleet Beacon coming out as well, actually, TLO could be perhaps running into some problems. So he's got this nice critical window. The Void Rays, though, are going to do good damage. And as such, with this very defended third base, WELMU, I can't help but feel, is fighting his way back into this.
Yeah, it's really difficult to tell at this point, because on the flip side as well, as we do see a little bit of attack coming in from TLO at the third base location, a good concave by the Hydralisk on a lot of these Void Rays here. They're actually successfully taking them down. The Zealots are not there to tank this time around, and all of a sudden TLO is doing a massive number.
That was incredible. Just as WELMU was starting to look like he could hold, those Baneling connects on all of the Zealots knocked every single one out, and without anything to tank up some of that damage and hold the Hydras back, the Void Rays have melted, and WELMU, I don't think is going to be able to come back from this. He's 100 supply behind pretty much, and now I think these Hydras are just going to be able to clean up, and even if they do get stopped, well, this third base is dead and gone. TLO has got an incredible economy behind this with 90 drones. And with the Ultras coming, with the Hydras coming, Wave 2 will definitely finish off WELMU now.
Yep, great storm on the Hydralisk, but unfortunately it was a little bit too little, too late. Another Warping of Zealots should just about get this cleaned up, but the third Nexus has gone down. GG comes out from WELMU, and wow, do we have a lot to talk about in that.